Good morning and welcome to Business Buzz. Coming up, the Nigerian exchange closes higher, though more stocks fell than rose. Banks raise overseas card spending limits as dollar liquidity improves. A leading power producer misses payments on a 40 billion naira bond, and the American economy unexpectedly sheds jobs, shifting expectations for interest rates. I am Louisa Asidi. Stay with us. Welcome. Let's begin with the markets where the Nigerian exchange closed higher on Friday. The all-share index added 364 points, a gain of 0.15% to close at 245,573 points. Market capitalization rose by 235 billion naira to 158.5 trillion naira. UPDC led the gainers, rising 9.23% to 3 naira 55 kobo, followed by CMFC and CWG. Meanwhile, Red Star Express pays the losers, falling 10% to 18 naira. Now onto the banks, where limits on international spending using naira cards are being loosened. Guarantee Trust Bank has raised its quarterly international spending capacity to $20,000, up from $6,000 last November. Access Bank and United Bank of Africa are also expanding capacity, while Stanbic maintains a far tighter monthly ceiling. Under updated central bank guidelines, the maximum tuition remittance for students abroad has been lifted to $25,000 per semester. Analysts describe the move as the clearest sign yet that foreign exchange liquidity has genuinely improved, with net reserves now reported above $40 billion. Meanwhile, the central bank's latest credit conditions survey points to a broadly healthier spending environment. Banks increased the supply of secured, unsecured, and corporate loans in the second quarter, while default rate declined across every leading category. Demand for corporate credit was driven mainly by balance sheet restructuring, capital investment, and inventory financing. However, there is a note of caution. Lending spreads narrowed for larger corporate borrowers, but it is widened for small businesses, which continue to face tighter terms. Now, not all the credit news is positive. Gregu Power has defaulted on its 40 billion naira senior unsecured bond. The company missed both its 8 semi-annual coupon payments and a scheduled principal repayment, according to a listing status update from the Securities Exchange. The 7-year bond was issued in 2022 at a fixed rate of 14.5% and matures in 2029. The issue was heavily subscribed by pension funds, banks, and insurance, which makes this a test of confidence in Nigeria's corporate bond market. Let's take a quick break. Some news from the upstream sector when we return. Welcome back. Now to the upstream sector, where the NNPC has rejected allegations of poor performance against its leadership. It says average crude output, including condensate, rose from 1.6 million barrels a day in April last year to 1.67 million barrels a day this April. This is an increase of about 6% as gas production also rose over the same period. The company added that it does not conduct licensing rounds or allocate oil blocks, responsibilities that sit with the upstream regulator. Staying with energy, assessors from the Global Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative have arrived in Nigeria. The mission runs from Monday to Friday and will include consultations with government institutions, companies, civil society, and host communities. Nigeria scored 72 points at its last validation in 2023. The list of corrective actions attached. The outcome will shape how international investors read the credibility of reforms in the oil, gas, and mining sectors. Now to agriculture, where rice millers say the federal import waiver has lowered shelf prices but is also squeezing local production. Industry representatives point to the absence of meaningful agricultural subsidies alongside sharply higher labor, processing, and haulage costs. They say a number of mills have already suspended operations because imported rice is cheaper than local output. It underlines the central tension in food policy, which is the short-term price relief for consumers set against long-term domestic capacity. Also on agriculture, the Livestock Ministry says developing grazing reserves could cut Nigeria's annual milk import bill of $1.5 billion. Work is underway at reserves in the Federal Capital Territory, Plateau, and Gombe, though officials acknowledge that slow budget releases have delayed progress. The ministry is targeting growth in the sector's contribution to the economy to $74 billion by 2030. It's time now for another break. When we return, a look into the aviation sector.
The Delta Broadcast Media Organization, in conjunction with the Delta State Ministry of Information, presents the Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2.0. Theme: The Broadcast Media as a Democratic Catalyst, Shaping Public Trust and Electoral Credibility in 2027. Keynote speaker, Sheon Okimbaloye. Anchor, Politics Today on Channels Television. Guest speakers, Ayo Mairo Essay. Anchor, Arise News. Agatha Amata, CEO, Trend FM. Samuel Fejoku, veteran broadcaster and senior special assistant to the governor on protocol. Guest of honor, Honorable Charles Ehiedu Aneagu, Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information. And Right Honorable Imomotimi Dennis Guo. Speaker, Delta State House of Assembly. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, Right Honorable Elder Sheriff F.O. Oborewori, the Executive Governor of Delta State. Convener, Media Personality, Ruki Onoro. Date, August 14, 2026. Time, 10 a.m. Venue, Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba. There'll be high-level networking, media interaction, capacity building, awards, and lots more. Register to attend on www.deltabroadcastmediaconference.org. For inquiries, call 0706-701-8400, 0803-874-9265. Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2.0, powered by Delta State Government. Sponsors, Dominion Pearl Homes and One Niger app. Supported by NTA, DBS, Quest FM and TV, Warri Sentinel, Trend FM, Mega FM, Baramatu Voice, Boko FM, Crown FM, Sleek FM, Eku FM, Big Heart Radio, Cruise FM, Atlantic TV, Rise FM, and Dott TV.
Welcome back. In the aviation sector, the Civil Aviation Regulator has cautioned against any further reduction in its statutory funding. The ticket sales charge accounts for roughly 85% of the authority's revenue, and officials warn that safety oversight could be weakened without a sustainable alternative. Airline operators, for their part, want that percentage-based charge replaced with a flat levy, arguing that it adds to already heavy operating costs. Meanwhile, Nigeria and Canada have expanded their bilateral air transport agreements. This means that the revised framework allows multiple designated carriers from each country, with up to 14 weekly passenger services and 10 all-cargo services. More than 25,000 Nigerians currently hold valid Canadian study permits, and direct services would remove the need for connections through third countries. However, airlines must still be designated and meet regulatory requirements before any flights begin. Still on Nigerians abroad, the Federal Mortgage Bank has launched a diaspora mortgage window in London. Eligible applicants can access up to 100 million naira at 9% interest, with a maximum repayment period of 10 years. Registration, verification, and contributions can all be completed remotely without traveling to Nigeria. The aim is to channel diaspora capital into the housing sector and to give overseas buyers a formal alternative to informal property arrangements. We'll have one more break. Still ahead, more business buzz. Welcome back. Now turning to international trade, where refined fuel has overtaken crude as Nigeria's largest goods export to the United Kingdom. Refined oil accounted for close to half of British goods imports from Nigeria in the 12 months to March. Crude fell to just under a third, down sharply on the year, while gas edged higher. Total trade in goods and services between the two countries slipped to £7.3 billion, a decline of roughly 3%. The shift reflects Nigeria's expanding domestic refining capacity and a changing shape to its energy exports. Now to the United States, where the labor market lost ground last month. Non-farm payrolls fell by 23,000 in July, against forecasts of a gain of around 83,000. The unemployment rate eased to 4.1%, but largely because fewer Americans were working or looking for work. The figures land with Federal Reserve policymakers divided, some of whom had argued for higher rates to contain inflation. Traders have since trimmed their expectations of a rate rise in September. For emerging markets, including Nigeria, a softer path for American rates can mean easier borrowing conditions and stronger portfolio flows. And finally to Europe, where Volkswagen's controlling family shareholders have called for faster and deeper restructuring at the car maker. The group has confirmed it is examining the loss of up to 100,000 jobs, twice the figure previously indicated, as it confronts a profit slump, traffic costs, and intensifying competition from Chinese brands. Its shares are down close to 28% so far this year. The outcome will be read as a signal of whether Europe's largest industrial employers can hold their ground against Asian rivals. This is all we have for you today on Business Buzz. I am Louisa Asidi. Thank you for joining us.